More than a decade after Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished from radar shortly after taking off from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia's Transport Ministry has now announced that a private marine robotics firm will resume a deep-sea search for the Boeing 777 tomorrow morning.
More than a decade has passed, yet the story of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 still refuses to fade. In 2014, a modern Boeing 777 vanished from the sky, taking 239 people with it and leaving behind one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. Years turned into silence, and silence turned into unanswered questions that never truly went away. Now this month, the search is set to resume once again, not as a dramatic gesture, but as a calculated attempt to uncover the truth hidden beneath the ocean. After so much time, what has changed, and why does this new search matter now? The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 was not just an aviation incident, but a moment that instantly unsettled the world. Shortly after taking off on what should have been a routine overnight flight from Malaysia to Beijing, the Boeing 777 simply slipped out of contact. There was no distress call, no warning message, and no sign that anything was wrong. For a modern aircraft equipped with multiple tracking systems, that silence was deeply unnatural. At first, confusion spread faster than fear. Air traffic controllers expected a delayed response or a technical glitch because commercial planes do not vanish without leaving a trail. Yet minutes turned into hours, and hours into a growing realization that something unprecedented had occurred. Radar screens showed the aircraft was gone, and communication logs revealed nothing out of the ordinary before contact was lost. This absence of evidence became the first and most troubling clue. As the news reached the public, attention quickly shifted to the people on board. There were 239 passengers and crew, each with their own destination, plans, and unfinished lives. Officials avoided emotional language, but the number alone carried heavy weight. It was large enough to demand answers, yet small enough that every individual felt personal to the families waiting for updates. The lack of information made that waiting even more painful because there was nothing to hold on to. Not even a confirmed location. What made the situation more alarming was how suddenly the flight disappeared. The aircraft did not report severe weather, mechanical failure, or abnormal behavior before vanishing. In most aviation accidents, even catastrophic ones, pilots have seconds to transmit a signal or trigger an alert. In this case, the systems went quiet without explanation. That detail would later drive years of investigation because it suggested a break from every familiar pattern. Governments and aviation experts were forced to confront a difficult truth. If a large passenger jet could disappear without immediate trace, then the global system designed to monitor air travel had clear limits. The event exposed gaps that few people had questioned before, especially in regions where radar coverage fades over open ocean. This realization turned a single missing flight into a global concern about safety, oversight, and technology. Within days, the story moved beyond Malaysia and China. Media outlets across the world followed every update, while speculation filled the spaces where facts were missing. Yet behind the headlines, investigators focused on one basic problem. They had no confirmed crash site, no debris field, and no final message to explain what went wrong. The flight had become a question mark suspended in time. That unresolved moment is where the mystery truly began. Because without understanding how the aircraft vanished, every later discovery would depend on guesses rather than certainty. And if the disappearance itself defied expectations, what did that mean for the search that followed? The first confirmed debris linked to Malaysia Airlines. Flight MH370 did not come from a wreckage field or a sonar scan, but from distant shorelines thousands of miles away. Months after the aircraft vanished, pieces began washing up along the coasts of Madagascar and Reunion Island, carried by powerful ocean currents across the Indian Ocean. These discoveries marked a turning point, because for the first time, the mystery produced physical evidence that could be tested and verified. Each fragment told a limited but important story. Experts examined serial numbers, material composition, and structural features to confirm that the parts came from a Boeing 777. This process was slow and careful because a mistake would risk sending the investigation in the wrong direction. When confirmations were made, they provided one clear answer. The aircraft had ended its journey in the ocean, yet that answer raised far more questions than it resolved. The location of the debris created a complex puzzle. Oceanographers studied current patterns to estimate where the fragments may have originated, tracing their possible paths backward through time. These models suggested a broad zone rather than a single point, stretching across a vast area of open water. Instead of narrowing the search, the evidence expanded it, turning the Indian Ocean into a massive field of uncertainty. What made the situation even more frustrating was what did not appear. No main fuselage sections surfaced, and no large clusters of wreckage were found. In most air disasters over water, heavy debris sinks near the crash site while lighter materials spread outward. With MH370, the balance felt wrong. Investigators had pieces, but not the core structure that could explain the final moments of the flight. For families of the passengers, the debris offered a painful mix of clarity and doubt. It confirmed loss without revealing cause, and it provided proof without closure. Public attention briefly surged with each new fragment, only to fade again when no larger breakthrough followed. The trail felt real, yet incomplete, as if the ocean was releasing clues in fragments, rather than answers. From an investigative standpoint, the debris reshaped the strategy. Search planners used the confirmed finds to refine drift models and adjust priority zones, hoping to align mathematics with reality. Still, these calculations depended on assumptions about wind, currents, and the time each piece entered the water. Small errors could translate into hundreds of miles on the map, making precision difficult. Over time, the fragments became symbols of the mystery itself. They proved the aircraft had not vanished into thin air, but they also highlighted how little was truly known. Each piece solved one problem while creating another, keeping the investigation suspended between progress and uncertainty. If scattered debris could cross oceans without revealing the crash site, then what did that mean for efforts to locate the aircraft on the seabed? And could the answers be resting far deeper, beyond the reach of drifting clues? The search for Malaysia Airlines Flight AIM MH370 did not end with the first headlines, because governments and private teams returned to the ocean again and again, driven by both responsibility and pressure. In the years following the disappearance, one of the largest efforts was led by the Australian government, which coordinated a massive underwater search across remote parts of the southern Indian Ocean. Using sonar mapping and deep-sea scanning, vessels worked across tens of thousands of square kilometers, slowly building a picture of the seabed below. Despite its scale, that search faced limits from the very beginning. The area was chosen based on satellite data and flight path analysis, but those models depended on assumptions that could not be fully confirmed. The ocean floor in this region is rugged and uneven, filled with ridges, trenches, and volcanic features that complicate scanning. Even with advanced equipment, large sections of terrain produced unclear images, forcing teams to move on without certainty. When the Australian-led mission ended without finding the aircraft, attention shifted to private technology. Ocean Infinity entered the picture with autonomous underwater vehicles designed to cover ground faster and with greater detail. This marked a new phase, where innovation was expected to succeed where traditional methods had struggled. The company conducted what became the second major search attempt, focusing on refined zones suggested by updated data. Yet this effort also concluded without a confirmed discovery. The vehicles gathered vast amounts of information, but the absence of a clear target meant the results remained inconclusive. Investigators were left with improved maps of the ocean floor, but still no wreckage. This outcome highlighted a hard truth. Better tools do not guarantee answers if the starting assumptions are even slightly off. By the time the current search was announced, the history was already defined by two outcomes. This would be the third major attempt overall, and the second led by Ocean Infinity. Each previous effort had narrowed possibilities, but none had delivered certainty. Critics questioned whether continuing made sense, while supporters argued that every pass added knowledge that did not exist before. The failures were not due to lack of effort or skill. They reflected the extreme difficulty of searching vast oceans with incomplete information. A difference of a few degrees in estimated flight path could shift the search area by hundreds of miles. At such depths, even identifying man-made objects becomes a challenge, especially when natural formations can resemble debris on sonar images. These earlier searches shaped the strategy moving forward. They exposed where assumptions had failed and where data needed reevaluation. They also proved that patience and persistence were essential, because solving this mystery was never going to be quick. The past did not provide an answer, but it left behind lessons that now guide the next step. So after two large-scale efforts ended without success, what convinced investigators that returning to the ocean once more could finally bring clarity? The suspected resting place of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 lies far below the surface, where the ocean becomes a world that resists human control. This region of the Indian Ocean is not a flat plain, but a maze of ridges, slopes, and deep basins shaped by ancient geological forces. At depths reaching nearly 5 miles, pressure is crushing, light disappears completely, and temperatures remain close to freezing. These conditions turn even the most advanced machines into fragile visitors. Searching at such depths demands technology built for extremes. Sonar systems must scan through darkness, mapping the seabed by sound rather than sight, while autonomous underwater vehicles move slowly to avoid missing critical details. Even then, the images they collect are not photographs but interpretations, created from echoes that must be carefully analyzed. A shadow on a screen can resemble wreckage one moment and natural rock the next, making certainty rare and progress slow. The scale of the challenge is just as daunting as the depth. The potential search zone stretches across thousands of square miles, an area so vast that full coverage can take months or even years. Each pass consumes fuel, time, and resources, while weather at the surface can delay operations without warning. Strong currents below add another layer of difficulty, pushing vehicles off course and forcing constant corrections. This is why investigators often compare the task to finding a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is moving and the needle may be buried. Unlike land searches, there are no clear landmarks to guide the process. Teams rely on data models, probability zones, and patient repetition, knowing that a single missed scan could hide the answer forever. Despite these limits, technology has continued to improve. Modern vehicles can dive deeper, stay underwater longer, and collect higher resolution data than those used a decade ago. Computing power allows faster processing of sonar images, while improved navigation systems reduce error over long distances. These advances do not remove uncertainty, but they shrink it, turning what was once impossible into something narrowly achievable. Still, even the best tools cannot overcome every obstacle. The ocean floor absorbs mistakes, and small errors in planning can grow into large gaps in coverage. Investigators must balance speed with precision because rushing increases the risk of overlooking critical evidence. In this environment, patience becomes as important as innovation. The reality is that technology alone cannot solve the mystery. It is only a bridge between human intent and an unforgiving landscape. The ocean does not reveal its secrets easily, and every meter scanned is earned through careful effort. Understanding these limits explains why earlier searches struggled and why renewed attempts require both better tools and sharper judgment. If the seabed has resisted discovery for so long, what combination of technology, timing, and strategy could finally tilt the balance in humanity's favor? The decision to resume the search for Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 did not come from emotion or public pressure, but from a shift in conditions that finally made another attempt reasonable. After years of uncertainty, investigators reached a point where timing, data, and environment aligned in a way that had not been possible before. This moment matters because searching the ocean is not only about where to look, but also when to return. One major factor is weather. The southern Indian Ocean is known for violent storms, strong winds, and long periods of rough seas that can halt operations without warning. Earlier searches were often slowed or paused by these conditions, reducing the amount of usable scanning time. This season offers a more stable window, allowing ships and autonomous vehicles to work longer and with fewer interruptions. More time at sea means more consistent coverage, which directly improves the chance of spotting meaningful targets. Another reason lies in how search areas are now defined. Over the past decade, analysts have revisited satellite data, flight path assumptions, and drift models built from recovered debris. Each review removed weak ideas and strengthened others. The result is a narrower set of zones judged to be more realistic than those explored before. Ocean Infinity believes these refined regions reflect lessons learned from earlier failures, rather than repeating old guesses with new tools. Technology also plays a role, but not in the dramatic way many imagine. The machines themselves are not entirely new, yet their deployment has become smarter. Improved planning software helps crews decide how to scan complex terrain, while better coordination reduces overlap and wasted effort. These changes may sound small, but in deep-sea searches, efficiency can matter more than raw power. There is also a practical truth behind the timing. Continuing the search earlier would have meant working with incomplete understanding. Waiting allowed experts to absorb results from previous missions, test new models, and debate their assumptions without the pressure of an active operation. When Ocean Infinity agreed to return, it did so believing the search would be more focused, not just repeated. Critics still ask whether restarting is worth the cost. Supporters respond that knowledge gained from each attempt has value beyond the immediate goal. Mapping the ocean floor improves future exploration, while refining search methods strengthens responses to other maritime disasters. In this sense, the renewed effort is not only about MH370, but about improving how humanity confronts loss in remote places. Most importantly, the decision reflects realism rather than optimism. No one involved claims certainty or promises a discovery. The goal is not closure guaranteed, but progress possible. Investigators accept the risks because leaving unanswered questions untouched has its own cost. This return to the ocean represents a calculated step forward, shaped by patience rather than urgency. It acknowledges past limits while testing whether new conditions can finally change the outcome. And if this moment truly offers the best chance so far, then the next question becomes unavoidable. If timing and strategy are finally on humanity's side, what truths might emerge once the search begins again? The mystery of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 has endured not only because of missing evidence, but because a set of unanswered questions continues to invite explanation. Over the years, investigators and aviation experts have proposed several theories to explain why the aircraft left its planned route, each built on fragments of data rather than complete certainty. None has been proven, yet none has fully disappeared either. One of the most discussed ideas focuses on intentional course deviation. Radar data suggests the aircraft did not simply drift off path, but change direction in a deliberate way. This observation led some analysts to consider whether someone inside the cockpit altered the flight plan. Such a move would require knowledge, access, and calm decision-making under pressure. While this theory remains controversial, it persists because it aligns with how controlled turns differ from mechanical failure. Another line of thought centers on cabin environment failure. Some experts have suggested that a loss of cabin pressure could have slowly incapacitated passengers and crew. In such a scenario, the aircraft might continue flying on autopilot after human control was lost. Supporters of this view point out that modern jets are capable of maintaining stable flight for long periods without input. However, critics argue that this does not fully explain the changes in direction observed earlier in the flight. There are also theories tied to system malfunction combined with human response. These suggest that an onboard emergency may have triggered actions meant to stabilize the situation, which then led to unintended consequences. In complex machines, cascading failures are possible, where one problem creates another. Yet without flight data recorders, separating technical cause from human choice remains nearly impossible. Public speculation has added layers of confusion. Extreme ideas have ranged from hijacking to secret landings, often fueled by incomplete information and emotional storytelling. Investigators have consistently distanced themselves from these claims, emphasizing that evidence must guide conclusions. The persistence of such rumors highlights a deeper issue. When facts are scarce, imagination tends to fill the gap. What unites the serious theories is restraint. Experts repeatedly stress that their proposals are interpretations, not verdicts. Each idea attempts to explain known details while accepting that large pieces are missing. This cautious approach reflects how aviation investigations work, favoring probability over certainty until proof emerges. The endurance of these theories reveals something important. The disappearance of the aircraft created a vacuum where explanation became necessary, even without confirmation. As long as the wreckage remains unfound, these scenarios will continue to coexist, none strong enough to close the case, yet none weak enough to dismiss entirely. This unresolved debate shapes how the renewed search is viewed. Finding the aircraft would not only locate metal on the seabed, but test years of assumptions against reality. Data recorders could confirm or reject ideas that have lingered for more than a decade. Until then, the theories remain suspended between logic and uncertainty, reminding us that absence of answers does not erase the need to ask. And if the search finally uncovers the truth, which of these long-standing explanations will survive the moment of proof? Finding the wreckage of Malaysia Airlines. Flight MH370 would mark a historic moment, but it would not end the story in a single instant. Discovery is only the first step in a long and careful process, because what lies on the ocean floor cannot simply be lifted and explained overnight. The depth, condition, and location of the aircraft would shape every decision that follows. Once a target is identified, experts must first confirm that it is indeed the missing aircraft. This stage relies on detailed imaging, measurements, and comparison with known aircraft structures. At such depths, even clear shapes can be misleading, so confirmation requires patience rather than speed. Only after agreement among specialists would the focus shift to recovery planning. Raising wreckage from nearly 5 miles below the surface is a technical challenge few operations ever attempt. Equipment must withstand extreme pressure while remaining stable enough to lift fragile material. Sections of the aircraft may be broken, buried in sediment, or scattered across uneven terrain. Each movement carries risk because damage during recovery could erase crucial evidence forever. Cost is another unavoidable reality. Deep-sea recovery operations require specialized ships, crews, and machinery that can remain at sea for extended periods. Planning alone can take months, while the actual work may stretch far longer. Decisions must weigh the value of information gained against the financial and technical demands involved. This is why recovery is never automatic, even when wreckage is located. If recovery proceeds, attention would turn to the data recorders. These devices are designed to survive severe conditions, yet time and pressure still take a toll. Engineers would carefully transport them for analysis, hoping they still contain readable information. Even partial data could clarify flight path changes, system behavior, and cockpit conditions during the final hours. However, there is no guarantee that recordings remain intact after so many years underwater. It is also important to understand what recovery can provide. Physical evidence may explain how the aircraft ended its journey, but it may not fully answer why decisions were made. Mechanical facts do not always reveal human intent, and some questions may remain open despite new data. Expectations must be managed carefully to avoid replacing one mystery with another. For families of those on board, the outcome would carry deep meaning. Confirmation brings a form of truth, even when it does not ease loss. Knowing where the aircraft rests can offer a sense of finality that years of uncertainty have denied. Yet closure is personal, and no investigation can promise peace for everyone affected. From a broader perspective, locating the aircraft would influence aviation safety worldwide. Lessons drawn from confirmed causes could shape future systems, procedures, and monitoring practices. In that sense, recovery would extend beyond MH370, contributing to the prevention of similar disappearances. Still, the path forward remains uncertain. Finding the wreckage would open doors, not close them, and every answer would need careful interpretation. The ocean has kept its silence for more than a decade, and even when it speaks, it may do so in fragments rather than clarity. If discovery leads to more questions than conclusions, how prepared are we to accept answers that may never feel complete? More than 10 years after Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished, the story remains unfinished, shaped by fragments of evidence and years of human effort. The renewed search is not only about solving a technical puzzle, but about honoring responsibility, memory, and the need for truth in modern history. Whether the ocean finally reveals the aircraft or keeps its silence, this moment reminds us how much still lies beyond our reach. Do you believe this search will finally bring answers, or will MH370 remain one of the greatest mysteries of our time? Share your thoughts and follow MindGap to stay updated as new discoveries unfold.